Oh. Seems to be working. Seems to be working. It is working. It is working. Nice. Man, we're good at this. Live streamers, rafters. Potentially nothing we can't accomplish. Cool. Well, I'll wait for some people to filter in. And then take our second crack at the whole event. Lovely, lovely. I am live. Well, I guess you guys can't see me now because the camera changed, but you can still hear me. Lovely, lovely. I am live. Well, I guess you guys can't see me now because the camera changed, but you can still hear me. Sorry, it must be weird when I play the Raft audio, the live stream audio into the live stream mic. Big feedback loop. Well, these waves are getting real good. Yeah, so we're doing a Q&A. So any questions you guys have, please ask. About the area, about the rafting, about me. And I'll do my best to answer as many as I get, I guess. trying to make it so my phone actually buzzes, or not buzzes, but dings when I get a text. What is the name of the next rapid? I guess is a question we just got. Well, Jasmine is going through a rapid called Conception Bay. And well, I guess Conception Bay has, it really depends who you ask, all right? And if you're, it really depends who you ask, and you get a different answer about Conception Bay. But one really cool thing about this rapid is, I don't know if you can see kind of what we're pointing at, but on the left, at high water, those rocks that we're seeing in front of us on the left create some of the biggest waves actually on the Thompson River. This time of year it's a little bit lower, So we don't actually get very many waves here. But that's because we lose the waves here, we gain them a little bit further downstream. A rapid called Tadpole, which will be just downstream of here. We get some monster waves in there. But Conception Bay, where we are right now, is definitely at its prime at really, really high water. Anywhere above 85,000 cubic feet of water per second is kind of as big as it gets. And big is obviously a relative term depending on the river, but when we talk about big waves on the Thompson, we're talking about waves that are like 15 feet tall. 3 or 4 forming in Conception Bay that get right about that size. Yeah, this, someone asked if the safety boat is for rafters that get in a predicament. Yes, it is. That it is. It's sort of a just in case. You can imagine on a lot of other rivers, anyone who's familiar with rafting, you might know other rivers run either safety kayaks is really common. Someone on a kayak who can rip around and rescue people that might have fallen in, or boats that might have got stuck, stuff like that. Other boats run safety cat rafts, right? So this is kind of a cat raft in some ways, but this is just a super, super mobile boat. I've got a 25 horsepower engine on the back. I can really rip around. I can pretty much get anywhere on the river with this thing. And you can imagine a kayak on a really high volume river like the Thompson, where we have big hydraulic features like whirlpools and boils and really, really strong eddy lines. It's just not quite as effective as something this size. A guide 2 days ago. That was probably me, where rattlesnakes were mentioned. Yeah, we got a new mic now, so hopefully you guys can hear me a little bit better. Rattlesnake is way far downstream. I could talk about it again when we get there, which will be in just over an hour now, but yeah, where we're located, Kumsheen, in the town of Lytton. This is a desert. It's pretty funny. Normally when people drive here, they're driving from like the lower mainland of British Columbia, which is much more traditional Pacific Northwest. Rainy, big tall trees, very green. And then you drive through a canyon to get to us, and you kind of drive out of the forest and into the desert. So we do have trees here, they're ponderosa pines, but it's a lot of sand. We've got sagebrush, tumbleweeds. It's very western looking here. So we do get rattlesnakes in the area. And Rattlesnake Rapids, that's just upstream of where our actual home base is located. We have had snakes seen on the beach right near there, seen on boats, people that have parked boats there on the beach. Sometimes the snakes would come onto the boat to bask, and then when the rafters got back on the boat, they wouldn't notice the snake, and the guide would have to fling it from the raft. So that rapid's been named for a really long time, named by the original founder of Kumsheen. Where are all the people? They all fell off. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, so I'm safety boating today, like I just mentioned. So we've got an empty raft. Here, I'll give you a view. Today is a really quiet day for us, especially considering we're in August. But that's often a lot of fun for the guides. So you can see Jasmine out in front of us. She's got 2 guests today. So those are the 2 people rafting. They're in a paddle boat, and my whole job is just to keep my eye on them. Well, and chat with you guys, but keep my eye on them, and if anything happens to them, that's kind of when my work would begin. I'd drive over, make sure the raft didn't get into any bad places, make sure nobody that potentially were to fall out of Jasmine's raft gets into any bad places. It can be a lot of fun, actually. Safety boating. See, Jasmine's going here. This is called Carnage Corner. See on my right? That's a monster wave. That's called Superman. Kind of has a tendency for launching raft guides airborne. Because of the way the wave forms, if you're boating over it, it kind of kicks up at the back where the guide sits. So we have had guides in the past forget to hook their leg around their seat, or just the wave surge up really big and send them 4, 5, 6 feet in the air. Yeah, but Carnage Corner, pretty sweet. This rapid changes a lot as we make our way through the year. I've got some good waves here at the bottom of it now. It's nice having this mic. I was listening to the stream earlier. You guys hopefully can hear the quality difference. Actually understand some of the things I'm saying. Ever get requests to fish? That's not a silly question. Often, yeah, a lot of people fish the Thompson River. So the fishing regs in the area actually forbid fishing from a moving raft on a river or a moving vessel of any kind. You can't be actively going down the river while fishing at the same time. So nobody's allowed to fish off the boat, but people often ask for good fishing spots in the area, and there's a ton of those. Especially when the salmon run's kind of going now, but especially a bit later when it's kind of in full force. You'll see a ton of fishermen. And it's funny, because of the way the salmon swim upstream, in the Devil's Gorge, which is kind of our busiest section of Whitewater, the salmon have very limited areas they can actually make their way upstream. So they'll really flood to those areas. They'll get really densely packed in. And so sometimes in the biggest whitewater of the day is also where you'll see the most fishermen. What is my winter job? That is a great question. You should, is anybody hiring in the chat? No, I'm kidding. I do a couple different things. Most commonly in the winter, I've worked as a scuba dive guide. So taking people scuba diving. In Indonesia, I've worked a couple years. Last year, or 2 years ago rather, I actually worked as kind of a general marine guide in Belize, which was really incredible, doing like snorkeling, sea kayaking, a little bit of scuba diving, some spear fishing, stuff like that on the Belizean reef. That was really awesome. But I'm trying to do a little bit more schooling these days. So last winter I went to firefighting school to try to, well, I got my 1001, my structural firefighting certification. So hopefully the next couple winters look a bit more like fighting fires, and rafting in the summer. But it tends to change every year. Ski guiding, I guess that's what the person asked, if I ski guide in the winter. I can ski. I think I would not be the person that you'd want showing you around or teaching you how to ski. I'm really good at going down the mountain, but not always in the most controlled manner. Whew, it is hot today. 35 degrees in Lytton right now. It's like, yeah, we're getting pretty close to the Devil's Gorge now. That's kind of our best section of Whitewater, I'll say, kind of what we're famous for. A bunch of rapids in a row. And another look at Jasmine up there. Rowing her way down the river. This is Tadpole right here. This rapid's pretty cool. One is partially formed by rockfall and avalanche here. Big flooding came through the area, sent a bunch of rocks into the river. Which you can imagine if rocks fall in upstream or in the water anywhere, it lifts the water level at that point where all the rocks have landed, which means the river has to get steeper immediately after them. And steeper water means bigger rapids. Yeah, we're getting into the gorge now, which means we normally get some more splashes. When there's no guests on the boat, not as many splashes come up, but I gotta put this lid on this box. Hopefully that does not crap out the stream. But I'll try and get you guys a good view of Jasmine. You can kind of see the preview of the rapid when we go through it, and then we'll watch to see Jasmine make it through right after. Nice. I guess there's a retired firefighter on the stream. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm still I think a little ways away from making a real go at it. Just such a high commitment job. It's definitely my dream, but it's hard to imagine me giving up rafting at this point. So yeah, but it just seems so incredible and rewarding, of course. Getting to make a difference and seeing, I think, the difference every day is a big part of it. All right, this is the Frog. Really, really narrow channel. A bunch of shallow rocks on the right I try to avoid, and a bunch of whirlpools on the left. Normally I opt to go into the whirlpools to dodge the shallow rocks. So we made it through no problem. This boat is absolutely massive compared to the size of the paddle boat coming in behind us. So we have to do a little bit different things, not to mention I've got a big 25 horsepower motor on the back, and Jasmine, our paddle raft guide today, is working with her arms, which are only about 15 horsepower. I don't know how wide the camera view is, if you guys can see that. Here. I'm calling an audible. Try and point the camera more towards the rapid for this one. You can see Jasmine right there going through the Frog. Look at that, survival. See Jasmine's in some of the whirlpools forming at the bottom of that rapid, but she's looking real good. Okay, hopefully I put the camera back where it should go. Yeah, so basically after every rapid, the safety boat, I'll go through them first, and then I do a quick 180 and make sure Jasmine makes it through without any issues. And we just rinse and repeat like that. Nearest airport to the resort. Well, our nearest big international airport is Vancouver. So Vancouver on a normal day, it's about a 3-hour drive to Come Sheen, to the rafting resort. But it's one of the most beautiful drives that you'd ever do. It's really, really stunning. You drive along this beautiful canyon the whole way. You could domestic. I'm not sure what the options are like, but I think if you're coming from Montreal, you can fly into Abbotsford. And Abbotsford's only about an hour and 45 minutes to come to the rafting resort. But again, I think the drive is well worth it. It's beautiful country, mountains and rivers. Kind of what BC is all about, at least for me. This is washboard that we're going through right now. You can see the waves are pretty big. These are massive rolling waves in an empty boat like the one I'm in. You can get a fair bit of airtime going over them. Nice. Well, yeah, a lot of what I do as well, especially this time of year, as the river starts to lose a little bit of water, like right now we're at 18,000 cubic feet per second of water, which is a ton compared to most rivers, but low water here on the Thompson. You can imagine the power raft that I'm in, I've got an engine hanging off the back, right? So that engine will sit, especially on this boat, about 2 feet deep in the water. There's lots of shallower rocks than 2 feet deep, so I spend a fair bit of time learning the river, knowing where the rocks are going to be and trying not to hit them. Just a second ago we came pretty close, but close don't count for nothing. The next rapid is probably our biggest of the day, called the Devil's Kitchen. Normally the most exciting for the guests, especially in the paddle rafts. Often these waves are big enough that Jasmine, in her 16-foot paddle raft, as she drops into the first wave, we will lose sight of her entirely because of the height of the waves on either side of her. The whole river funnels right, pushes to the right side of the river, and there's some absolutely massive whirlpools forming there, called the kitchen sink. You'll be able to see that, hopefully. You're looking off the front right in the stream. But you can also just take my word for it, they're massive. And you can see this first wave here. This is called the Jolly Green Giant. Normally safety boating, I wouldn't run very much of this at all, but I would skirt it more to the left, but because you guys are here, we'll run a bit more. There you can see the kitchen sink right on my right. Maybe not, but I'll turn around in a sec to watch Jasmine, and you can see it there. Facing upstream now. There's Jazz dropping in. She might just be a little speck on the live stream, but those are some massive waves she's going through. Nice. She made it out. They got some big smiles. Happy to have made it through. Okay, that was Devil's Kitchen. This one's Cutting Board, this next rapid. Another really cool one. Defined by this big rock in the middle of the river that's splitting the rapid in two, and the river in two. The right side of it right now is two massive recirculating waterfalls, essentially. We run the left side, a really fast channel of Whitewater. It's hard to imagine, but this rock in the center of the river, this entire thing, in early July and June will be entirely underneath the water due to how high our flows will get. Try and get a good view of Jasmine as she goes through here as well. How deep is the river? It really depends where we are. The deepest point of the river, even this time of year, will be like 60 feet deep, maybe more. Most points though, our river is about 15, 20 feet deep everywhere that we're actually rafting through at this time of year. Underneath me right here is probably 30 feet of water, maybe more. So it's the risk of, say, touching the bottom of the river if you fall out is quite low comparatively to a lot of other rivers. But obviously, even though the river can be 20 feet deep, there can be 20-foot tall rocks. So you can see in front of me here, there's some shallow rocks forming a couple of waves. I kind of have to dodge through them. And yeah, a little bit less hazy. Yeah, the smoke's actually been blowing out this morning, I would say. It's hard to know about whether or not the fire situation is improving. It's all so fluid. I mean, there's so many people working these fires every single day, long hours, their conditions change so fast with the wind, the heat and everything. But hopefully it's getting better. Definitely the smoke level in Lytton today is down from where it's been in the last couple days, and weeks even. That's funny. If you're wondering if your phone is listening to you, I just got a text. This is probably the most I've said the word stream out loud in my entire life, and I just got a text from Netflix encouraging me to renew my streaming service. This is Witch's Cauldron, this rapid here. This is one of my more consistent rapids. Basically, no matter what time of year it is, you're gonna get a splash in the Witch's Cauldron. And you guys might notice, I don't know if you are, but there's not actually all that many waves coming and crashing over the bow while we boat down. Most of that is due to the fact that we don't have anybody on this boat right now. I'm standing at the back, the engine's at the back. So when all the weight is at the back, we can't really crash through the waves like we normally do, but even with just 2 or 3 people on the boat, it would, you'd be getting some huge splashes. How long have I been doing this? Too long, and not even that long. This is my 3rd season working as a raft guide on the Thompson. My 4th year working at Cumsheen. My 1st year here, I worked as a housekeeper and in the coffee bar. And I did a couple of trips just commercially down this river, and I kind of fell in love with it. So I came back the next year, applied to be a guide, and yeah, luckily they hired me, and I get to do this every day now. The water looks even clearer than it has lately. Yep. You can imagine as we get later in the year, a lot of the glacier melt and rainfall. The farther into summer it dries up a little bit more. So we get less and less of that, I guess, dirtier water flowing down. We have clear water so much of the year also because the Thompson River pulls right out of Kamloops Lake. So all the rivers that feed the Thompson watershed and Kamloops Lake, they drop all their sediment in the lake. All right, the sun heats up the water a ton, and then we just take the top layer of it. So we have this really, really clear water. As we get later into the season and into the winter, the water becomes absolutely stunning here. Bluer and clearer and bluer and clearer. But right now we kind of have this nice emerald green color. All right, this next rapid, one of our biggest, maybe the biggest today. I know I said that about the Devil's Kitchen, but I'd forgotten about this. This is called the Gums of Life. Immediately followed by the Jaws of Death. A massive wave. It's kind of the highlight of this rapid, called Pacific, just because it's this huge, almost ocean-like wave. Just slowing down to wait for Jasmine. Peel out of here now. You can see the wave right there. And right after it. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I'm getting airtime going over those waves. And then this right here is the jaws of death. Sorry, not chatting much. Jasmine's killing it right now. You can see how narrow it is here. This is one of our narrowest sections of river. Actually man-made here. While they were blasting out the highway, or rather, sorry, to make room for the railroad, they accidentally detonated a fair bit too much TNT, sent a big, about a third of the mountain sliding down towards the river, which artificially narrowed this canyon. Can we do that one again? I wish. Gums of Life and Jaws of Death are so narrow that there's not actually enough slow-moving water on either side of the river to make our way up above the rapid. Yeah, but those ones are classic. Where can I buy a boat like that? Maybe if you ask Come Machine really nicely. No, so these rafts, they're called J-rigs. It's funny, they're actually originally designed as land bridges to be used in the Korean War. These pontoons with actually floorboards stitched together. As far as I know, this boat that we're on right now, which we call Ken, is a custom-made raft. So the tubes we order into a specific size, and this frame was actually welded for us. This aluminum frame, someone named Ken put it together, which is how it gets its name. But this boat is basically entirely custom. The only other place on Earth that uses rafts similar to this, but not ones exactly like this with a rigid frame, is the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. Most other rivers on Earth just don't really have waves that are big enough to warrant a boat like this. Where are you originally from? I am originally from the beautiful town of Surrey, BC, just south of Vancouver. Yeah, I was born there. I grew up there. My parents live there. I still spend a fair bit of time down that area. But I really prefer living in the country, away from the hustle and bustle of the city. So I try to stay around Lytton as much as possible these days. Do you guys use these on other rivers? So we do, but only also on the Fraser River. So the Fraser River has about 4 times as much water going through it as the Thompson. So we raft the Fraser through an area called Hell's Gate, which is somewhat famous. It is an extreme narrowing of an absolute massive river. Some of the most ridiculous whitewater you can find it forms right in that little area. some huge whirlpools, another feature called boils, which kind of looks like volcanoes of water. So features like that form in this really, really tight canyon through the Fraser River. So we raft down through there and some other rapids there as well. The Fraser is a really, really cool trip. We haven't been able to do it this year, unfortunately, due to the wildfire, but that's a pretty regular event for us here, rafting down the Fraser River in August. But those are the only two that that we've used J-rigs on to my knowledge. Again, it's a short list of rivers that have enough water going through them to make these worth it. Yeah, that's the Devil's Gorge. We still have a ton of good whitewater in front of us. About 10, 12 rapids still ahead, just a little bit more flat water. Time to float and chill. Gets a bit more relaxing for me here. I don't have to be so worried about Jasmine and the paddle rafters. Oh man, I'm sure you can tell how sunny it is on the stream, but you cannot tell how hot it is. It is a scorcher out here today. It's basically the perfect weather day here on the river. Very little wind, nice and hot. Rocks falling. Do I ever worry about rocks falling down into the river when I'm on the raft? The short answer is sometimes. It depends. Like where we are now, you can kind of see where I'm floating right in the middle of the river. It would take one hell of a rock to come down and cause me problems now, but there's some areas often when some guests on the raft will ask about the rocks, and I'll drive up right below some of the steeper cliffs on the river, talk about how the rock features are formed. Sometimes I get a little bit spooked. We have a very active rockfall culture here on the Thompson. You guys couldn't see it. It's right. A big rock just fell right behind the camera right now as I'm talking about that. Yeah, there's a fair few landslides every single day along various stretches of the river. So sometimes I'm a little bit worried, but I think that the fear is mostly irrational. Sorry, hopefully you guys can't hear me chugging my massive water bottle. Live streaming is thirsty work. What's for lunch? Lunch that we have on the Thompson, most days people get a burrito buffet, which, I don't know, I shouldn't even talk about it. It just makes me hungry thinking about it. But yeah, we've been doing a make your own burrito buffet for many, many years here. It's like pulled pork, ground beef, all the veggies you can think of, beans, rice. Yeah, it's just a burrito bar basically. So on most of our days we start up at Shaw Springs. People that join on the half-day trip meet everybody who came down from just further north. They all eat lunch together and then we continue on. Today, just because there was 2 guests, our chef made them, I believe, sandwiches, sandwiches or maybe chicken Caesar wraps, which they'll get to eat after the trip is done here. How far north are we from Vancouver? It's about 200 kilometers. It's a 3-hour drive. I think it's more like 250 kilometers. Yeah, but it's a 3-hour drive from Vancouver. But again, like I mentioned, it is an absolute stunner of a drive. It's a ton of fun. It's like a racetrack. How many does the raft carry? Depends on the boat. This raft that we're streaming off of, this one we fit 12 guests on. That raft in front of me now that Jasmine's on, that one can fit up to 9 people. And right now there's just 2. I think I said 12, it might be 14 on this raft. It kind of depends on how cozy you want to get with your neighbors. But the more people on the raft, normally the wetter the ride is, because the boat just sits lower and lower and lower, which makes the wave crash into it higher and higher and higher. So often after the gorge, some people that are a bit more nervous for rafting are feeling very accomplished. They've survived all the rapids with scary names like Jaws of Death, Witch's Cauldron, Devil's Kitchen. So we kind of throw those folks a bone here with this rapid. We call this one Fluffy Bunnies. But I don't know if Fluffy is the most apt name for it. It is can be pretty cool. You can see this wave right in front of us. This one is called Green Monster. Wait for the paddle raft here to round the bend. Yeah, Jaws at different level. I guess you guys are curious about how much Jaws changes. Yeah, so Jaws of Death is an incredible rapid. It changes so much throughout the year. So Jaws in the spring, first week of June, we actually have that rapid is big enough that it's actually governed by the provincial government. All right, so the BC Rafting Owners Association, they have rules in place dictating what certain companies can and cannot do with commercially with guests on their raft. And Jaws is dictated, is subject to that, I should say. So above 55,000 cubic feet per second, we're actually required to go around that rapid. So like I said, it's so narrow, so it's actually quite difficult to skirt around it, but there's a very narrow highway of water on River Right that we kind of skirt around one of those waves. Jaws of Death is the reason that it's governed in that way is because that was actually the last thing that flipped one of these power rafts all the way back in the 1980s. This time of year, 18,000, so that's over four times less water in it than when we're not allowed to actually run it. Changes a ton. As Jaws starts to get smaller at this time of year, Gums of Life starts to get even bigger, which is the rapid just upstream of it. And yeah, because it's so narrow, little changes affect Jaws so much. So there's certain levels where it's just absolutely massive. And then you come back in a week and it's small again, and then a week after that it'll get big. So say like 23,000 cubic feet per second, which would have been about 2 weeks ago now for us. Jaws was huge, maybe even bigger than it is above our provincial cutoff, but we're allowed to run it at that point. Someone said they did a trip from Ashcroft to Yale. Going through Hell's Gate was the highlight. Yeah, it's pretty incredible, especially if you've seen it from the air tram, just past Boston Bar there. It's pretty insane that you can just raft right through there. Yeah, no bears yet today, which is a shame. But the bears have been coming in and out. It's interesting, the wildfire affects their behavior so much. We've been seeing so many more since it got smoky. I guess it's kind of pushing them out of the mountains closer to the river. But again, I haven't really had my eyes peeled yet for bears. I've been darting around on the live stream. Lots more questions coming through. Imagine doing this on a canoe. I don't even want to. Some people do like C1, like whitewater canoe, like where it's just one person and one paddle. Do something like that here, but another one of our guides, Connor, is a big canoeer. I'm always trying to convince him to take his canoe down here and just embrace the flipping. Yesterday, one guide signaled to another with one hand on top of her head. What does that mean? Here, should we have a little demo so everyone knows what we're talking about? Okay, this is your first river signal lesson with Trey. Okay, this means my head hurts. I got a bump on my head. No, but I love saying that. So that signal that I just showed you guys with one hand on top of your head, that's basically, if anyone's a diver, it's kind of the equivalent of this. Giving an okay signal. It's a question and an answer. So normally if something's gone wrong, or if all the guides are waiting for something, or we're about to actually launch the trip, like push off from the put-in, one guide will give that signal, okay. He's or they're just asking everybody, are you all good? Is there any problems? And if everybody gives that okay signal back, we know we're good to go. All right, this is bad attitude. This rapid is awesome. Another one that's formed by the landslides. Maybe my favorite rapid on the whole river. I just think it is good, and this rapid is good for so long. It starts to get really, really big right around maybe 34,000, 35,000, and it's been big now for over a month of this. Tune in next time for we'll get you guys trained up. Sorry, I know a lot of these questions were from a couple minutes ago. What are the winters like? I am yet to tough out an entire winter here, just because nobody's living in our staff housing on the resort. So I get a bit worried that I'd get cabin fever and go stir crazy. But I'm hoping to spend a little bit more time up here this winter. But my understanding is they're actually quite mild. We don't get that rough interior BC winter that I think a lot of people are imagining when we're this far north of Vancouver. But definitely snow in the mountains. It'll get to like -10, I've heard, but I'm not 100% sure. Can I zoom in on the paddle raft through rapids? I do not have my zoom in functionality, but I can try and do a better job of parking and turning around when they're going through the rapid. It's kind of hard. There's a limited amount of places I can actually hold the raft totally steady and point it at the paddle rafts. Are there grizzlies, black bears, and cougars on the riverbank? Yes. We get a ton of black bears in this area. We also get cinnamon bears. The only grizzly I've ever seen in the area was actually swimming across the Fraser River. We were all at the takeout. One of our staff members pointed into the middle of the Fraser and was like, "What is that?" And I immediately said, with 100% confidence, "Wood, that's a log," and got back to what I was doing, like loading up rafts. And she's like, my coworker was like, "Are you sure?" And I just said, "Yup," and kept doing it. Anyway, eventually that piece of wood started swimming and turned and faced us very briefly, and you could just see his head and ears poking out above the water, and it was quite a big grizzly bear actually, swimming across the Fraser. So we do see grizzlies every now and again, but mostly they live higher up in the mountains and not all the way down by the river. Black bears are super common. Cinnamon bears, which are basically genetically the same as black bears, but they have this ginger gene. So they kind of get this dusty orange fur. They're more unique to kind of arid areas like Lytton, Kamloops, like that. Really cool animals. And cougars, I'm yet to see a cougar, but from what I hear, they're more common around here in the winter, and less so kind of in our summer season. Yeah, I'll try and get a couple more close-ups of the paddle raft. But no, I don't think we have a zoom function. Up here, this is one of our cooler rapids. It's called Kumsheen Coaster. Not the biggest whitewater on the river by any stretch of the imagination, but because of the way the river's forming here, where it's deep enough, super deep, still nice big waves, but not those typical hydraulic features like whirlpools that pull people underneath the surface. We just have waves through this rapid. So we actually give most of our guests on almost all of our trips the chance to swim through this rapid, which is a lot of people's favorite part of the whole trip. So basically you could jump out, hold onto the side of the raft, and float through all the waves in the rapid. You guys gonna go for a swim? Nice. We'll see what they do here. I might also go for a quick dip. It's so hot out. Just to cool off quickly. One of the nice things about this raft is we've got ladders, so we can actually throw the ladders out, so people don't have to be hauled back into the raft unceremoniously. They can just climb back up a ladder. Here, I'll try and get an angle of it, but Jasmine's guests are swimming through this rapid now. I don't know if you guys can see that, but they're out of the water hanging onto the front of the raft there. Floating through some, not the biggest waves on the Thompson by any stretch, but lots of these waves are still 4 or 5 feet tall. You can see them bobbing up and down. Is that railroad freight only? It's lots of different stuff. Mostly it's freight, but there's a couple different passenger trains that come through here via rail. Has a train every now and again that'll run through. The most common one we see is called the Rocky Mountaineer, which runs trips like from Banff through Vernon, Kamloops, and they raft down this corridor really often. Sorry, not raft. Drive, I guess. Train down the corridor. How long does it take to make the raft run? So our commercial trip, our full day we call it, our legendary Thompson River, is just over 40 kilometers of water that you're rafting down. That one is about 3.5 hours on the water, I would say, depending on the day and the wind, but right around there almost every single day. And then we do a half-day trip as well, which is about 2 hours on the water, 2 hours, 15 minutes, which is the same section of river, you just start a little bit further down. That one's about just under 30 kilometers, 25 or so. And yes, can you raft down from Kamloops Lake to Lytton? I have wanted to do that trip since I started working here. Sorry, what was I talking about? Could you raft all the way from Kamloops to Lytton? Hypothetically, yes. There's not actually all that much whitewater for most of the stretch. We mostly have there we go. It's mostly flat water, so you'd raft down. You can raft basically out of Savannah. Sorry, I have done that trip. I'm thinking of doing. I'm talking about going from above Kamloops Lake. I have rafted from Kamloops Lake down to Lytton. Yeah, so it's Savannah, and then at Ashcroft you raft through. We have a trip that leaves from Ashcroft, which kind of gives you the most whitewater on the north side of the Thompson River before you get down to where we are, which is like from Spence's Bridge down to Lytton. That's obviously where the most whitewater is, the rafting trip we do every day. But yeah, Savannah down is really, really cool, right out of Kamloops Lake. It's an overnight trip. It's quite far. You're rafting like 150 kilometers basically. So it takes 2 days, but that's a really, really cool trip. Yeah, my understanding is that's actually a trip that we used to run historically at Cumsheen. We used to do a lot more overnight trips. It's quite an old company here at Cumsheen. We've been rafting here for many years. This is our 53rd year in operation. Rafting almost exclusively on the Thompson River, but on various stretches of it. So when we first got going, the founder of Cumsheen, Bernie, actually thought that the lower Thompson, so the Devil's Gorge, right? That what I was talking about earlier, those 8 rapids, he was under the impression that would be almost unnavigable, that it would be too difficult to do that stretch consistently. So for the first couple years, he was mostly doing trips around the Ashcroft, Savinaw, Spence's Bridge area, and not actually coming all the way through down to Lytton. But eventually, after about 3 or 4 years rafting, he did his first descent down the Thompson River, which is quite the tale. We actually have a picture of it up in our office. If you ever do end up coming to the resort in person, you can see a picture of Bernie and his friends going through the Frog Rapids. And yeah, after he did that first descent, we fell in love with rafting the Lower Thompson. So I guess in that time, we've taken like 350,000 people rafting right around that area. I always say it's about half the population of Vancouver. We've taken down this section of river, and we've never had any major injuries, no fatalities, no losses of life on the river, which is it's basically the best safety record in the game. I don't know if anybody in the chat's been rafting anywhere else. There's a reason they don't mention that. But yeah, we're very fortunate on the Thompson. It's one of the, I guess I'll call it a safer rivers. Obviously, no whitewater rafting is inherently an extreme sport and can be dangerous, but because we don't suffer from more of the major hazards that you have on BC rivers, like wood, log jams, right? It would have to be a very impressive tree to jam up on this river. And we also don't have any shallow water. Right, it's super, super deep down the whole length. Another landslide coming down on the right side. He's living off the land, drinking fresh water. Not all of our guides drink the Thompson. I don't know. Don't tell your friends, but I'm yet to get sick from drinking this river. And I forgot to fill up my water bottle today. So yeah, I drink the river fairly often. Oh my God. Can deaf people raft? Of course, 100%. We've taken all sorts of people rafting. I think we've taken paralyzed people. We've taken lots of amputees rafting, people with very limited vision, deaf people, all sorts. And the best part about that is power rafting is so accessible. The boat that I'm on right now, all you need to be able to do basically is hold on. Is be able to grip something with your hand. Doesn't have to be that strong. I've taken my 80-year-old grandmother rafting. We've taken people up to in their 90s down this river. I've taken my grandma rafting only once. She said it was a bit too exciting for her. But yeah, we take all sorts down the river. That's awesome that you booked a trip, hey? September 5th. Oh, that's gonna be an awesome river level. Well, yeah, you'll probably see me. I'm working that day. If anyone does want to come rafting, you can book a trip. I'm sure if we don't have a link in the live stream in the description, there should be one to book a trip. But either way, yeah, you can just call Cumsheen. We've got some ridiculously friendly office staff. I know because I live with them. Yeah, you can book a trip through there. I love taking people rafting, showing people the Thompson River. I think I'm even a little bit more personable when I'm not a disembodied voice over on a computer. And sorry, someone in the chat said they've been down the river almost 200 times. That's incredible. Yeah, if I end up being your guide, maybe I'll let you do most of the talking. Bad backs, yeah, so for people that are either like have differences, like they're sore easily or they have pre-existing injuries or conditions like that, yeah, normally we have them sit towards the back. Or if you're nervous about rafting, you've never done it before, you're not a strong swimmer, or like we take people that cannot swim at all, people that are self-diagnosed sinkers, you know what I mean? And so often, yeah, when people are more nervous about rafting, we have them sit towards the back. It's a bit of a calmer ride, because you can imagine the front of the raft goes all the way up and over the top of those waves, kind of breaks them, and the back of the raft tends to be a little bit more of a level sitting experience. But yeah, all shorts. I hope I have a good immune system. We'll see. I'll let you guys know on the next live stream. Any idea what the fishing would be like on this river? Well, I can tell you what the casting would be like. I've gone fishing here fairly often. I'm what you call a worthless fisherman, though. But so many people fish on the Thompson. You catch trout, salmon. We have another guide who's often on the live streams as well, Connor, who's a very avid fisherman. If he's feeling nice, he'll take me out with him. But the fishing is pretty incredible. We have a lot of people come out here fly fishing. A lot of the locals will dip net for salmon and trout, right? Like I was mentioning earlier, right in the biggest rapids of the day is often where people are catching the most fish. Yeah, but there's no better place to sit by the river, I think, than the Thompson. River access can be a little bit difficult as well. That's one of the reasons that people fish right in the heart of the rapids there. Is because that's one of the areas, I guess, where the highway is very close to river level, so you can just park your truck right on the side of the highway, hike down to the water, start catching. Sorry, I know I keep checking my phone. That's how I hear about your guys' question. What's a river pickle? What? That's a question we just got. What is a river pickle? You'll have to tell me. Why is he going backwards? Because I'm awesome. I'm trick rafting. Often we turn around and catch slow water, or if we're in a flat section like this, the paddle boats, they'll let their guests swim. Because I don't have anyone on my boat, I'll just let it float and it turns around in circles. Sorry, there's another question that I think I missed. What is a river pickle? I've got no idea. Grimace 79, I don't advise drinking that water. No, I also, like I said, don't tell your friends. I would not advise drinking the Thompson River. No, I should probably not be drinking it on camera. It doesn't matter. It's it's not treated, it's not clean. It's not cold either. It's like, we have pretty warm water here. It's 20 degrees. It's lovely to get splashed in the face by on a hot day, but for drinking, it's not the best. Where's my gold pan? I actually would really like to get into gold panning. I think it's really cool. I had a guest on my boat the other day who was who owns a gold mine. And I was asking him all sorts of questions about about panning on the river. Lots of people will come down and pan the Thompson. I think most people that find gold find it closer to the Fraser River. That's how the gold rush started, right? The guy found a big nugget of gold in what is now Boston Bar. And Highway 1, the Trans-Canada Highway, is an old gold rush trail. It started as just ropes and like brush cut trails so people could actually navigate along the side of the river. And then it just got wider and wider and wider, eventually big enough for horses, and then big enough for horses and buggies and railroads and cars. But the river's always been navigable, if you knew what you're doing. There's gold in them hills. That there is. In them there hills, boy. So this is Rattlesnake. I know someone asked a question earlier about Rattlesnake. So the resort, I don't know what your camera view is like, but right above where I'm pointing the raft right now is where Cumsheen is, up on the hillside there. So you kind of get this view that we're coming around the corner to, the White Canyon. This is one of the places I can turn around here and actually show you the paddle rafts as well. Yeah, but we call this Rattlesnake. There's a beach just upstream of here where it's not uncommon to find rattlesnakes. This is not the best representation of the rapids on the Thompson River. This is a smaller one, but you can kind of see how the paddle boat moves through the waves. Sorry, there's someone here who I took rafting a long time ago. Oh, Dwayne. I know you, Dwayne. You've come a lot. Yes, I still feel like a fresh-faced rookie some days. But yeah, now it's my third year. They're letting me lead trips down the river now. It's been quite the journey for me. Try and give you a view of the paddle rafts here without crashing into them. It's a fine line. Professional whitewater cameraman. So the view you're looking at now, that's the White Canyon. That's one of the things that keeps me coming back. That's directly across from the resort. You can see it from most of our accommodations on site. It is just stunning. And someone asked earlier about rockfall. This is one of the areas that I get a bit nervous about rockfall. What does the water taste like, Trey? Tastes like victory and freedom. No, it tastes fine. Most people that get splashed with it, you get a little bit of a taste of the Thompson in every single rapid, and no complaints yet. It's not the most delicious water I've ever tasted, but it's not far off. The water in Lytton itself, the actual tap water, is incredible, especially on the resort. Especially if people are coming from out of town, you're not from BC. We pump all of our water right out of a natural spring that sits just below the resort. We're on our own well, and it is so good. The water is like a 10 on the resort itself. We have Connor, another guide who's from Ontario. It blows his mind every time he comes back how good the water is. Does this job pay well, or am I on tips? I would do this job for free. Some people tip. I'm definitely not living tip to tip in any way. No, I get paid well. And well, or at the very least, where I live in Lytton, if no one's ever visited, there's not a lot going on here. There's not a ton to do. I live right on the resort. My rent is probably the cheapest rent you could find anywhere in Canada. And it's actually quite difficult to spend money here. And all I do on my weekends normally is go rafting. I'm not losing all my money on things. Normally my biggest expense every single year that I've worked here has been buying rafts. I own now, oh God, 3 rafts of my own. A bunch of other gear related to that, so that adds up pretty quickly, but no, other than that, it's a pretty cheap place to live, especially when I get all my enjoyment out of nature. Where do I learn to drive a raft? If you watch this stream enough, I think you'll figure it out. No, so Comsheen runs a guide school, actually. It is incredible. I should be plugging this guide school every single time I'm on the live stream. So yeah, it's a 2-week guide school program. It runs in January, February, March, and April. It starts at the end of April. It's 2 weeks, and we teach you how to raft. It is unreal. It was the best 2 weeks of my entire life, and I like to think I've done some exciting things in my time. But you raft every single day. We teach you how to paddle, guide a paddle raft, guide an oar raft. I'm fortunate. I took the guide school 3 years ago. This year I was one of the instructors helping with it, which was so fulfilling and so incredible. And like one of the things I really like about working at Comsheen is getting to show people what rafting can be like, and then actually teaching people how to do it was that times 10. Yeah, so we learn how to raft the first couple, it's 2 weeks, like I said. The first week, people have no idea what's going on for the most part. We raft the Nicola River, which flows from Merritt to Spence's Bridge, which is really, really cool, especially in spring flows when it's at higher water and you're living at the resort in the regular accommodation. And then the second week, we do, normally in the last couple years, we've done it on the Chilliwack River. I think, we'll see. Now that I've got my claws in the guide school, I'm keen to switch it up a little bit and do some different stuff. But yeah, we raft the Chilliwack River every single day, multiple runs down their commercial run of the river. So I don't know if you've ever done that section with Chilliwack, but you learn how to guide where they raft every single day with guests. Nice. Have been rafting over 20 years. I've seen a lot of different raft guides, and they've all been fantastic. Yeah, especially, I mean, now everyone who works at Comsheen is really incredible. The guide team, I'm lucky to work with them all. And everybody does it differently, right? You get an entirely different experience, I think, if you were on my boat or if you were on one of our other guides' boats. I mean, often we get requests for certain guides. You know, people that have been here before, had a certain guide, they'll come back and actually just request to be with them again because they like their guiding style. And I think it shows how good everybody really is at their job, that every guide that works at Comsheen gets requests from guests to be their guide. Every guide likes to talk about different things. We've had guides that spend hours on the raft talking just about the bird life or the flora or the fauna. Some guides are really, really passionate about like the history of the railway or more of the native history and like the First Nations people that lived in the Lytton area for tens and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Do I rent my rafts out to the resort? The resort, it does not want the rafts that I go on privately. The rafts that I use are, I don't know, I guess the official word for them would be slapdash. They're not in the best shape. Compsheen has beautiful newer rafts, and the newest raft that I own out of the three, I think is still 25 years old. No, so we just use those privately, and mostly on smaller volume rivers than the Thompson as well. Getting closer to the end of the trip now. We only have 3 more rapids left. Getting really close to the actual town now. But these last 3 rapids are pretty awesome. As the Fraser River starts to descend here late in the season, you can imagine, sorry, sometimes it's hard to explain. I'll pull up my motor quickly. As the Fraser River descends, right, the Thompson collides with the Fraser. So you can imagine as the Fraser River gets lower, as the Thompson River descends to meet it, the Thompson has to get steeper and steeper. So when the Fraser's high and the Thompson is high, they're a bit more level. So it's not quite, the gradient, I guess, isn't quite as severe. This time of year, as the Fraser starts to drop, the Thompson gets steeper and steeper and steeper. And that's the most dramatic here of these last 3 rapids. So Washing Machine, a rapid called Rapid number 17, which doesn't have a name yet. We're kind of waiting for an incident to happen or something exciting. If anyone's got any good names, you can throw them in the comments. And then our last rapid of the day, Terminator. This time of year, these rapids just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And right now they're looking real good, in all honesty. Reminds me of North Idaho. I guess so, yeah. I've been in Idaho a couple times. That's beautiful country there. And also definitely the rafting mecca. Hey, Idaho. It's a way of life there, rafting. Well, this is Washing Machine here. This is another one where, believe it or not, we will let people swim through this rapid. Again, deep water. Not as many hydraulic features, especially this time of year. Huge waves, and a lot of fun swimming through something like this. try and get another view here of Jasmine paddling through these lower rapids. Lower waves, I should say. Almost caught air. Yes, in this safety boat, I have to temper myself. If I go as fast as I sometimes want to, the boat will properly fly. Have the trees been eaten by beetles or burned? We do have pine beetles in the area. Most of what you're seeing is burn from wildfire. Those trees that have turned into tall poles and less like trees. But the good thing about, wildfire is totally natural for this area. It's a dry, arid desert. Fire is often really good for the ecosystem here. And once all these trees have burned once, they can't burn again, right? And we get some really incredible flowers, brush, that pops up right after fires. Even these trees, ponderosa pines, actually propagate better after a fire. Try and get another view of Jasmine as she's going through the rapids here. This is rough water just sitting on the couch. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, the rapids are incredible. It's funny, it's not like choppy ocean water. You feel the boat go up and out of it. Often a question we get is if people get seasick on the rafts. It's so rare. Because you're actually you're more connected with the water. You can actually see what's coming, imagine how it's gonna move. It's not like being on a big rocking ocean boat. Well, this is Rapid 17. You'll see towards the bottom of this rapid on river left, some of our taller, steeper waves on the river back to back to back to back. So thinking about everybody watching the stream and what you guys are seeing, it reminds me how nice it is here. Especially if you've never been out in the Fraser Canyon or towards Lytton before. I guess being rafting here every day, very used to the beauty of the area, but yeah, it's pretty spectacular. And this is those bottom waves I was talking about. actually see. I'll try and get upstream and get a view of Jasmine going through these rapids. Might be a bit hard, but anything's possible. Hopefully you can see her there. A safety boat rerunning this rapid. Not the most common occurrence. This one, I should also be able to give you a pretty good view. Next one here is called Terminator. Pitch a quick 180. And we'll try and watch Jasmine. Hopefully that's an all right view. Yeah, Terminator, like I mentioned, this is a low water rapid. These waves are really big right now, and they only get bigger towards the end of the year. Oh, hopefully you can see Jazz a little bit. I'll peel out after her here. Well, that's kind of the last rapid of the Thompson River. We're basically in the town of Lytton now. We take out right on the Fraser River. It's an incredible view of the confluence where the two rivers actually meet. Would you raft this river with a raft from Amazon? I would absolutely not in a million years. But yeah, all my rafts, even though they are old, they're all from at least reputable whitewater brands. They all hold air. Amazon, I don't know. Some people are braver than I, though. Now we just get to cruise. We often get marmots in this area, coyotes, down by the side of the river. Any marmot fans in the chat? My girlfriend's really into marmots. We have big yellow-bellied marmots. One stat I read recently is in the last 30 years, marmots have evolved to get 25% bigger. So they're fat marmots everywhere in Lytton. And yeah, how often do we stream? Every single day we've got rafters, we're streaming. So tomorrow we'll be streaming. We'll stream on Sunday. I'm not sure if there's rafters on Sunday. We'll be streaming. I'm not sure if there's rafters on Monday, but I would bet there is. Basically every single day of the week, there's a pretty good chance we're streaming. And always right around the same time. Our trip timing's pretty consistent. I don't know if it's written in the description, but in the past it has been. When we run the Gorge, when we're running some of the other big rapids of the day that we expect. Yeah, any other questions? I think like 3 or 4 minutes here before we'll be at the takeout and I have to abandon you guys and do my my actual job, lugging heavy rafts around. Let's see. Did you pull up your ladder? Mike, you're a dialed man. No, it's still in the river, but it's attached pretty well. It doesn't tend to go anywhere. Yeah. Yeah, but we normally stream every single day. I'll pull in the ladder now. Quick welfare check on the ladder. It lives. Looks like a golden eagle to me right there. I don't know if you guys can see it perched on the top of that rock. Yeah, that's an awesome bird. Massive eagles. He's been around this area a couple days now. Any famous people raft sometimes? I wish more famous people raft. How much is it? I wish I knew the answer to that. Our rates change depending on the day, for how much it costs. The best way to know for sure, I mean, sometimes we have deals and specials for long weekends, stuff like that. Depending on if you're power or paddling, the full or half day, the prices are different. It should all be listed on our website. And if it's not listed there, you can always just give the office, like Thompson River rafting, you can just call the number when you Google it. And they have many better answers than I do for that. Any famous people come rafting? Not all that many. I know we've taken some like media people in the past. I don't know if anybody's a hockey fan, but the Canucks have gone rafting. Their development camp has gone rafting every year for the past 3 years. And they've rafted everywhere but a Thompson. Chilliwack rafting they did. They rafted on the Adams River. This is better rafting than that. Certainly for size of rapids, weather, the Thompson is better. So I'm trying to get the Canucks to go rafting. It's mostly just wishful thinking. I just hope really hard that they'll come every year. But if anyone's connected with the Canucks, for sure, you gotta put in a good word for Thompson. How many motor props have you gone through in the year? One of my claim to fames, not to fame, my claim to mediocrity used to be that I'd never hit my propeller on the Thompson River, but then I hit it earlier this year. We're getting better every year, at least that I've been here. It's not all that common that we hit our prop, but we're definitely getting to that season. It's pretty hard to find shallow enough areas to hit your propeller on at high water, but now that we're getting later in the season, the river's getting drier and drier, it gets easier and easier and easier. But we keep spare propellers on the boat, and they're really easy to change. can see my friend Tyja in the water. This is the most technical maneuver I've made all day. Landing the boat on the trailer. This is another common place we hit our propeller. We did it. Smells good. All right, well, thank you guys for rafting. Thanks for all your questions. And yeah, like I said, we're gonna be live streaming tomorrow, and there'll actually be people on the raft. So you'll get to see them getting splashed. Might be a bit more engaging, but yeah, see you guys next time.
Oh yeah.
It's probably off, right?
You want me to check?
I'll look right now.
I was listening to it in the shop.
How was that?
It was fun.
Really?
Yeah. It was good.
We're not live.
Stream just crashed.
Oh no, we are live.
Definitely not off.
Guys, I'm not all that technologically advanced. We're live again. It just